Connection established.
If you go back 20 years, we were in a situation where all of the connectivity in Kenya was on satellite. There was no submarine fiber in the country yet, and it was expensive and it was slow. And the whole world at the time was exchanging their traffic locally, and we felt that this was important so that not only would you have improved connectivity for traffic that was local to local, but also would help to drive down the cost of providing service to the consumer. And that's really how it was born.
The cost to go via Telecom Kenya's satellite earth station on your own, as opposed to going through JumboNet, there was a big difference. So all of us by default were using JumboNet because they had set the price for having your own satellite connection very high. Now JumboNet became one, a single point of failure. Two, it was a permanent headache that everybody complained about at the time because sometimes they would oversubscribe, they would sell more bandwidth downstream to us as ISPs than they have bought on the upstream, so we have a lot of congestion. And of course, each of us were paying for the pipe that we had there, whether it was 10 Mbps or 15 Mbps, we were paying an international rate.
The price of bandwidth at that time was really expensive, and we were all buying from one single source, which was JumboNet. And what the motivation was that if we are buying, say, 10,000 worth a month of bandwidth, the price will reduce to 5,000 because we were assuming that 40 or 50% of that traffic is local, which we will manage, or we'll expand our capacity at the same 10,000. So that made a huge difference and a big motivator to invest in that equipment.
And I had a commitment from Cisco saying we will donate if you're able to get at least 4 ISPs together to set up an exchange point. We will donate the equipment you guys need to set up the core. So I came back on fire and I started knocking on doors and literally went and met the CEOs of every single ISP at the time, almost all the ISPs that were active at the time. The interesting thing is that this discussion was coming around at the time when together all of the ISPs have said, hey, we need to join forces to be able to make stronger arguments and negotiate with government on the issues we are facing as an industry.
And that's how TestBook was formed. It became an association of ISPs to be able to lobby for our interests and to be able to put to the government what we need and to be able to show that we need infrastructure, because we couldn't even roll out infrastructure. It was too expensive. There were, I think, only 2 of us ISPs, the bigger ones, who could roll out a little, as I say, to the main towns.
One of the key projects that we also took on board was, let us, at the same time as we're lobbying government for reforms around the international gateways and other things, let's also see if we can optimize our operations by setting up an internet exchange point.
I really didn't have any idea what amount of traffic there would be local. And so we invested 50,000, and I think 4 other ISPs at that time invested the same: Swift Global, Net 2000, Nairobi Net, and FormNet at that time, which is called Kenya Web. And so a few of us got together and put a switch somewhere, got some premise, and started and put up links to the exchange point. And perhaps the traffic at that time was really limited, but it did grow.
An exchange point is about people coming together to exchange their traffic, and despite that, the fact that most of the people then were competitive rivals, they saw the need and they came together and they were able to achieve something that has grown in leaps and bounds.
Challenges that we faced was that, one, not all service providers were ready to jump in immediately. So we were few and we had to spend a bit more money to set up KIXP.
We came up with a sustainability model and we said, look, as TESPOC members, we're going to have to be contributing as companies every month, some amount, to be able to ensure that we can pay the rent for the office, which is going to house the internet exchange point. We also need somebody to sit there, to take care of things, So at the same time, we also said we need to be able to raise enough money to pay a salary for an administrator.
The other challenge was that, as I said, the government didn't think this was a good idea. And so suddenly, we told, nope, how can you people do this? Stop. You need a license. In fact, the joke goes how we were the first country in the world who had to pay for a license for an internet exchange point.
At some point we were trying to get licensed by, at that time, CCK, and that license was not forthcoming. As a matter of fact, and I think there's a letter we're still looking for that came to say that we need to shut down the exchange point. So I guess we had, stepped on the wrong toes at that time.
So next thing we knew, we received a group of very angry-looking people from CCK who demanded immediate closure and shutdown of KIXP. And we resisted it, but we didn't really have much of a choice. So the exchange point was shut down.
It was really hard bringing new technology in a time when you are fighting a monopoly and in a very draconian and restrictive regulatory environment.
So for almost a whole year, we couldn't operate. Exchange point couldn't do anything. But we lobbied, went to court, did whatever we could, and eventually we were able to. And you see, that is why it was so important that TESPOC was formed, because we were then now a group of like-minded business people, internet service providers, who were fighting for our rights.
CCK was now under pressure from government to reopen the internet exchange point. But given the politics of the day, it had to be done in a face-saving way. So the only face-saving way for this to be done was for them to come back to us and say, oh, the reason we closed this down was because you guys didn't have a license. You have to apply for a license. So eventually what happened was that KIXP became the first internet exchange point in the world to require an internet, an operating license. And it was so exciting to be able to just see our traffic all of a sudden moving and optimizing. And we saw an immediate drop in the traffic levels that were going over our international circuits. We shared the news with the rest of the ISP community with a lot of excitement, and from then on we had literally daily other ISPs coming in and connecting.
A year into the KIXP, and I think it probably didn't do more than 10 megabytes of traffic. Today it's doing 60 gigabytes of traffic and growing. And of course, when you're accessing local sites, when you're accessing local services, you're no longer going abroad. It's a lot quicker and really has made efficiencies improve.
We joined KIXP in 2014. We pair with them at the East African Data Center. And the major reason for us pairing with them was, of course, we wanted to pair with also the other service providers and content service providers. And this has been able to give good value to the services that we provide to our customers as well.
And this had a great advantage to the customers. It made the internet faster. If you were sending an email from one ISP to a customer on the other ISP, it would make everything faster. But it also made great savings, great cost savings for the ISPs.
A lot of the benefits that Kenyans enjoy today in terms of ubiquitous internet access, fast internet access, great customer service was borne by KIXP. The services then used to be very terrible because we were relying on a monopoly who was really not supporting us. In fact, they're only grudgingly providing us with service.
Some of the big achievements or milestones also we had during my tenure was the introduction of the GRX, which was meant to provide a platform for voice traffic exchange within the region. And this was mainly again to kind of deal with the exorbitant roaming rates.
Initially, KIXP had been registered as a separate company, but when I came on board, I was asked to run it as a business service offered by TESPOC. And we have maintained KIXP's individual corporate status as we have moved along. We file returns for KIXP on an annual basis and run KIXP services under the TESPOC umbrella, because KIXP is owned by two shareholders, TESPOC and TESPOC. And so that said and done, KIXP is fully owned by TESPOC, with TESPOC really the one making decisions on how KIXP should operate and how it's run.
Because of the growth in peering, because of the growth in numbers who are joining KIXP, we've seen that global companies have started to come to Kenya. They've started to invest in putting in their network equipment into Kenya.
By June 2020, we actually had a migration from 1G to 10G ports for 15 members. And within the first year of the pandemic, I'm happy to announce that we actually had 15 new members, which grew to 34 new members within the second year. In as far as traffic is concerned, the first year of the pandemic saw us having an increase of 195% in as far as traffic is actually concerned, which translated to a further growth of 230% in the second year. As the KIXP marks their second decade of existence and moves into their third decade, we are looking at trying to ensure that more members get and drop onto the bandwagon as we're looking at rolling out the 100G ports, and more importantly to ensure that we can actually have a very sustainable environment to operate within Kenya, and not only within Kenya but the region as a whole.
We've come a long way. It's been 20 years as we celebrate 20 years of the KIXP. I'm really honored to have been there from the start with all the challenges we had to where we are today, with no data center opening in the region without being connected to the Kenya Internet Exchange Point. Such an important part, an integral part of the internet as we know it. So really, where's the future from here? The internet will get faster, the exchange points will get more efficient. From 60 GB, I think we're looking at probably terabytes that will be transcending or transacting in the local exchange points.
We no longer have to buy that expensive bandwidth. It improved services. It improved collaboration amongst industry players. I think KIXP now went on to help other countries, I believe like Uganda and Tanzania, set up their own exchange points. So really, KIXP should really be proud of what they've achieved in the last 20 years.
Our goal and our dream is to hit 1 terabyte of data at the exchange, and I think we will be there sooner than we might be considering, because there's been the COVID dispensation has changed the way we work. There's been a lot of uptake today of 100 gig ports. Initially we sold our ports in KBPSs. We've moved from KBPSs, we now have, we went to the megabyte port size. Today we've got 1 gig ports for the small, very small operators, but we start from 10 gigs and then we've got 100 gig ports, and the largest uptake today is in the 10 gig range, and many of them are upgrading and migrating to the 100 gig range of traffic. We've seen so far an uptake of 6 100 gig port sizes.
I am extremely delighted to announce that Facebook and Netflix will be taking up the 100G ports at the KIXP, and definitely looking towards growing this particular segment to a much greater level of attribute within the Kenyan space. Most importantly, keen to ensure that everyone within the KIXP ecosystem understands that we remain very ambitious and are keen to ensure that we have this particular space thriving for businesses to be able to unlock their full potential in Kenya.
Congratulations KIXP, congratulations to everybody involved, and we look forward to another great 20 years and even more innovation in the technology space in Kenya.
KIXP has undertaken a very long journey to get to where it is today. When we look at the number of members, 68 members peering, and the traffic, 58 gigs of traffic, and being able to announce 102 routes, those are major milestones we have achieved for ourselves. And it is my hope that we will only get better. And I just want to appreciate the board members that I've had over the years for their support, and especially those who've really gone out of their way to help us out and to support us in terms of making sure that we have the right procedures and we are operating above board. Thank you for your oversight role. It has kept us on our toes. It has ensured that we keep on improving and we can only get better. And I just want to appreciate the team that has worked with me through the years. I appreciate each one of you. I thank you for your support. I thank you for playing your roles. And I really look forward to another level of growth like we've never seen before, especially in the next 2 to 3 years, because this is the time that the KIXP plan is taking off and we had better stay in the skies.